家好，这里是洛杉矶华人资讯网的直播现场，我是主播莉亚。近视问题呢，堪比一场瘟疫，已经席卷了全球。从国际临床医学权威杂志《柳叶刀》的文献报道来看，亚洲人的近视概率高达90%。也就是说呢，如果您身为亚洲人，你大概率会得近视。那同时呢，因为基因问题以及文化因素，亚洲人还普遍都是深度近视。那么这该怎么办呢？近视手术像 LASIK 半飞秒，从30多年前诞生以来，已经造福全球数亿人。同时，美国 FDA 在这2年最新批准了更为先进的 EVO ICL 可植入性晶体。那近视的朋友呢，应该如何做选择？今天我们节目呢邀请到了权威医学专家、哈佛大学医学博士 Dr. Raymond Fong邝理中博士为我们来讲解。在节目的开始，我们首先来为大家介绍一下 Dr. Raymond Fong 邝理中博士。他是纽约市最大最负盛名的眼科中心之一 Raymond Fong Eye Care 眼科诊所的创始人。他在 LASIK 激光手术、EVO ICL 和白内障手术方面拥有丰富经验。至今以来，他已经从业43年，累计做11万例的视力矫正手术，是美国眼科领域的先驱之一。上世纪80年代，他以优异成绩毕业于哈佛大学，并且获得康奈尔医学院的医学学位。病人不乏政治官员、名流明星等近视者，还有很多人呢是祖孙3代都在他这里做手术。那过去的25年当中，包括像 Castle and Connolly 最佳医生指南，通过同行审议和评估，将他评价为顶级医生，只有7%的医生会被选中。同时呢，他被列入纽约杂志最佳医生特刊，获得业内尊重。首先我们请 Dr. Fong 打个招呼吧。Hello Dr. Fong, thank you so much for joining us today.
Hello, yeah, hi. Thanks for having me, even though I'm in New York City and not in the West Coast. I appreciate it.
Sure. So today our audience will be based in New York and they're willing to know more about your practice. So could you please start by giving us a brief introduction about yourself and your background?
Yeah, I'm an old guy. I'm 69 years old. I've been in practice for about 35 years. I came to New York City as an immigrant. I was 5 years old when I immigrated from Hong Kong. And I can tell you that back then was a totally different era. There was no Chinese community in Brooklyn or Flushing. There's only Chinatown that was 8 square blocks. There were only about 25 to 40,000 people. And everyone spoke Toisanese or Cantonese. No one spoke Mandarin. Even the Chinese school didn't teach Mandarin unless you reached high school level. Wow. So I apologize. I don't speak Mandarin. And actually my Cantonese is not that good either. That's what my friends tell me. But I do practice in Chinatown, and I've been in the community for over 35 years.
Wow, even though you don't speak Mandarin, but I'm sure that your technician and consultant in your clinic, they do speak Mandarin, and they are multi-language users.
We speak all the languages, all the languages.
Right. So talking about your experience, it sounds like you're kind of like explorer. And when you arrived in the U.S., you kind of like had a tougher life.
You know, it didn't seem that tough to me. I just thought it was normal. I grew up in Chinatown. In the tenements, they call them slums. But I thought everyone grew up like that. So I thought it was just normal for people to have their bathtub in the kitchen, that everyone except the parents slept in the living room, that both my parents worked 6 days a week, 12 hours a day. And that when I was 12 years old, I started working in a factory. So I thought, wow, that's just the way life is. You know, it's when you're in there, you don't know what's on the outside. You just think it's totally normal. So I don't think it was a tough life. I actually enjoyed my childhood.
Right. And you have impressive education. You know, I feel like kind of the person that every parent's dream to have. You know, you have the scholarship of Harvard, Yale, Princeton, MIT, and Columbia. And many people consider your story will be a true American dream. How did you achieve this?
I always think that they confuse the Fongs. There must be some other guy who's really smart. When people ask me, what's the secret to success? And I'm not the only one who achieved the American dream, I think. I think many, many Asians. It's really, when I talk to medical students and college students, it's really 3 words. Work, work, work. You just have to work at it. You just have to work really, really hard. You have to set your focus and just, you know, be there 24/7. You know, I think a lot of people know about this high school I went to. It's a very prestigious one called Stuyvesant High School.
Yes.
And that gave me the opportunity. I mean, I graduated near the top of my class, so I was fortunate to receive scholarships and acceptances to all the colleges. But it's just really a matter of hard work and the dedication. That's really what it is. I'm not smarter than most people, I can tell you right now.
Wow, you're here being humble. Yeah,
great.
Right. I've got to tell you, you definitely have the, work, and also have the high intelligence. Otherwise, you definitely cannot achieve like that. So why did you decide to go back to Chinatown, to the community after graduating from Harvard? I mean, you definitely have more polished options.
Yes. So two things. Back in the 70s was when the first movement to have Chinese have a greater voice in politics. Also in healthcare. I mean, back then in Chinatown, there were very few doctors. There were uncontrolled, huge cases of high blood pressure, diabetes, so many different problems. And the idea at that time, there was a group of very focused people, college students, medical students, who wanted to establish good healthcare in the Chinese community. And I was one of them. I was enamored by these people who were so dedicated to coming back and working in the community. I wanted to be one of them.
Wow.
Second most important is I just felt at home. I thought that was my home. I grew up there. I mean, even now, if I go to a cocktail party, the first people I want to talk to are the Asians. I just feel totally at home where I am, and I'm so happy that I chose the community.
Oh, thank you so much for your service, and you're definitely happy working here.
Very, very happy. The happiest part right now is I treat 3 generations of patients.
Wow.
I've treated the grandparents for cataracts. The parents come to me for either LASIK or now cataract surgery, and they send their kids to me for laser vision correction. So you're seeing generation after generation of generation. And whenever I go into like an exam room and I still have the old paper charts, and I can see some of them are really thick, and they say to me, Dr. Fong, you've seen me for 25 years, 30 years. I just feel so grateful.
Wow, it must be the ultimate trust that you were willing to hand your kids' eyes to the kind of doctor that you had. Back to the topic, we're talking about myopia, and Asian people, due to the genetic reasons, they have high myopia, but there are many ways to help them to get rid of the glasses. So for now, there are 2 main approaches to vision correction: laser surgery and lens implantation. Could you please explain the key differences between these 2 methods?
Sure. So I always like to tell people that the eye is like a camera. I know everyone has iPhones, so think of it, the Nikon or Canon or Sony cameras, the big cameras.
Yeah.
The eye is like a camera. There's actually 2 lenses. There's an external lens, which covers the camera, and there's an internal lens. And then there's a film, which is the nerve layer of the eye. So what the problem with myopia is that the light is not focused. The image is not focused on exactly on the back, on the film, on the retina, on the nerve. So what do? Laser vision correction, what we essentially do is take the outer lens, reshape it, quote unquote, shave it very precisely with a laser to alter the focus. The second way is really you do surgery, open up the camera, open up the eye, very, 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 very tiny incision, and we place a contact lens. Not one that you can rub or you can feel, but something that just stays there over the natural lens of the eye. So those are 2 major ways. And then within laser vision correction, there are subgroups. There's what's called PRK, also LASIK, also femtosecond laser, which is, I still feel is a gold standard. There's also something called SMILE.
So in your practice, we can have LASIK and EVO ICL. So EVO ICL is the latest advanced, in lens implants, and it has the previous generations. Actually, ICL has been there for a lot of years, but recently the EVO version is the latest one. And could you please describe how the EVO ICL compares to the previous generation of ICL lenses, why it is, a premium solution for the ideal candidate?
Yeah, it's like black and white TV versus HD TV.
Wow.
About I think 15, maybe 18 years ago, I was one of 100 U.S. surgeons to train in the first generation EVO lens. And the surgery was good, but I just felt that it was too complicated and there would be complications. And sure enough, a number went on to develop cataracts. The newer one is just, it's a different technology altogether. The polymer, or that's what the lens is made of, is much softer, more flexible, more malleable. And what's very, very important is that they devised a way to put a small little microscopic central hole in that lens. And what that does, it just changes the nature of the surgery and the lens altogether. It allows nutrition to come from the back eye to the front of the eye. It spaces the natural lens away from this lens so that there's no cataract formation or very little cataract formation. It's just a wonderful, wonderful EVO type of technology, which has taken off in China. I think over 3 million have been implanted in China in the last 5 years.
Wow. And talking about it, it says it's reversible. Of course, the surgery itself is not reversible, but the lens can be reversed. How does it work?
So the lens is made of a very soft, flexible type of material. So if for whatever reason you're unhappy with it, which is very, very rare, because you're really dealing with people who have really, really bad eyes, you simply do a very, very 5-minute surgery and remove the lens.
Okay, that's very nice. And using that actually doesn't cause any dry eye syndrome comparing to laser surgery. Is that how it goes? So
I think the disadvantage of laser vision correction is much, much less now because of the new technology. We don't see as much dry eyes as we did before. I think the main difference is that if you're not a candidate for laser vision correction, which does involve surgery, you most likely are a candidate for EVO surgery. And you're right, EVO surgery is actually more natural to the eyes in many ways because you don't really shave any of the tissue off. They're both good. They're both good technology. It's wonderful. I think what EVO has done is given us a whole new group of patients who could not have any correction before.
Got it. And could you please walk us through the entire process from consultation to examination and finally the surgery? What should people expect during the LASIK or EVO ICL surgery?
Yeah, the consultation, we offer free screening because we don't want you to waste your time. Essentially, in the consultation, we would do a few pre-screening tests to make sure you're a candidate because there are still some patients who may not be candidates for whatever reason. Once that's ascertained and you are a candidate and you proceed to a full checkup, we want to make sure the eyes are very, very healthy. And that's usually a normal eye check we do in the office. But here's the key. Once you consent, you want to have either LASIK or EVO done, we have you come back for, be patient, hours and hours of measurements. We use so many different machines, so much different software because we want to be as accurate as possible.
Okay.
Especially in the people who are very, very nearsighted. So we always tell people, be patient about that part. The surgery itself is very fast. You know, the laser vision, you're talking about 5 minutes, EVO maybe 10, 15 minutes each eye, but just be patient about all the measurements we do. That's really the key.
Well, how deep the myopia will be considered as a high prescription in your practice?
Yeah, remember I deal with Asian eyes. For me, they're all, with EVO eye surgery, up to 20 diopters, 22,000 myopia. Okay, with cataracts, we can talk another time. I've dealt with up to 2,900.
Wow.
Asians are very, very myopic. Okay,
yes.
When we see a 5 diopter or 500, 600 myopia, for many of the Caucasian doctors, that's like, wow, so high. For me, that's normal. Like, wow, you have a pretty normal eye there. Nothing to worry about.
Right.
We deal with very, very nearsighted people.
Right. Definitely, I can understand that because previously I had -12 and now I have EVO, I can see clear. So talking about the results, what is the recovery period like for LASIK surgery or EVO ICL surgery? And people often ask, can I get 20/20? What is your answer?
So recovery is very fast. Either case, within the next day, you get like 90% of your vision. And generally, you can return to work within 1 or 2 days. You can enjoy sports and activities within a week. But the second question you asked, 20/20, is a very interesting question. So my take on it is that I'm not trying to achieve 20/20 vision. I'm trying to achieve 20 happy vision. So what's the difference?
Yes.
So I told you I treated 3 generations of people. So my whole goal is to make them happy now, but make sure they're happy 5, 10, 15, 20 years from now. So to make them happy, it's important to give them good distance vision and also preserve their near vision. So what happens when you're 40 years old, below or even before 40 years old? You begin to lose your near vision. You become what's called short-sighted. In scientific words, it's presbyopia. So people will then have to rely on reading glasses. In this day and age where we're constantly looking at iPads, iPhones, Androids, computer, that's going to be a real disability. So my goal is to make sure they get great distance vision, but preserve the near vision. So a lot of times that may not mean 20/20, okay? But what it means is that, you get good enough vision for distance, 99.9%, you want to wear glasses for most things. But maybe in a dark room, your vision may be a little bit blurry. Just wear light pair glasses or sit in front. But 10 years from now, we know you'll still have good near vision. And okay, that is what 20 happy is. And I know you're probably gonna say, but what about the people who see 2015?
Yeah, that's my question.
They go in and they show their friends. Like I just had a
2015. Yeah.
Oh yeah, we were sitting and this doctor who had just had the vision correction, he saw so far, no one else could see the small print on the screen. It's a trick.
Right. Why? Why does a trick?
They've been made far-sighted.
Really? So 2015 is farsightedness?
Yes, for most cases. I mean, there are, I'll talk a little bit more about that, but 2015 is essentially you're farsighted. You basically, all the people in the Rangers, the snipers, in the special forces, they're all farsighted. They see far, very, very far. The downside is that they're going to need reading glasses earlier on.
Right.
And it's not, and here's the third thing I want to bring into point. It's really not so much 2020, 2015. That's based on the old technology. It's based on you looking at a chart. It's called the Snellen chart.
Yes.
What we're looking for is also quality of vision. You may have a 20/20 that's poor quality, or you may have a 20/30 that's excellent quality. So it's all these what you call aberrations, abnormalities on the cornea or the lens of the eye. And we also have software. For example, in laser vision correction, we have what's called Contura software that eliminates a lot of these abnormalities. So it's not 2020, 2015, it's 20 happy. Okay. And the other thing I tell people, and my mantra is promise less, deliver more.
Right.
They'll be happy that way. Limit the expectations, but the results will be stupendous. They'll be very, very happy. Promise less, deliver more.
I think you answered a very important question that I have been asked a lot. Like, I can see clear today, and how long does the result last? Does it go back in a few years later? Because a lot of people complain that I had the LASIK here, and 5 years later, I cannot see clear. So it doesn't long last. So I feel like you kind of mentioned about 20 happy. It's like, you want it to be happier in the next 2 decades, or like 3 decades, until you have new vision problems like cataracts, because that was formulation very naturally, and you cannot avoid that. So, so you answered a very important question, actually. And also, you mentioned before that Asian eyes are different, and talk about Asian people, they are so myopic. And would you please elaborate on these differences and how your clinic provides specialized care for Asian patients?
Well, I always give you an analogy. If you had to do eyelid surgery, cosmetic eyelid surgery, would you go to someone who's not experienced dealing with Asian eyelids?
No.
The anatomy is different.
Yeah.
Okay. The results can be different. You don't want to look Caucasian. If you have some skin problems, you want to lighten your skin, or you have some skin lesions, would you go to a dermatologist who is not experienced with Asian skin? It reacts differently. Asian eyes are different, and they're different for many reasons. First of all, the high level of myopia. So that's why the measurements, we are gung-ho about measuring accurately. But that's not the only thing. It's not click button and it's done. It's really surgery, even with the laser. A lot of the equipment was made for Caucasian eyes. They're bigger. They protrude more. They're really not made for the smaller Asian eyes, the deeper set eyes. Okay, the smaller chamber that we see in the Asians. You don't have to go to an Asian doctor. You just have to go to someone who's experienced dealing with Asian eyes. And I've been at it for a long, long time. So I've seen everything under the sun. Everything under the sun. So it's not just me, but you have to go to someone who's very experienced in dealing with that particular type of eye.
Right. And I know that for EVO lens, there is FDA guidelines of measuring the lens size because the size of lens is very important. If it is too big, then it causes more high pressure of your eye. And if it's too small, you got to rotate it, right? So there are ways to measure the lens. How do you measure that?
So again, belt and suspenders. So the FDA says you measure one way. I measure 3 ways. We're very, very careful about that. And you're right. Asians do have smaller eyes. And the other thing that's important is that the space in what's called the anterior chamber, which is the front part of the eye. Typically, the FDA will say it has a 3.0 or more. We can do off FDA, and a lot of times we will do that because Asian eyes, about 25%, 30% don't reach 3.0. So when we place the lens in the eye, we have to be a little slower, a little bit more careful. We have to make sure it's placed exactly because of the smaller eye.
Right. And many people actually are hesitating going to the vision correction procedures because they're so afraid. And some people may ask, could I be blind if the surgery failed? Are there any risks of the serious complications? What do you think?
So I'm conservative. And it's so funny you ask that because when they ask me, well, Dr. Fong, what's the worst case? I say to them, you can go blind.
Really?
And I watch their reaction. Now, 2 reactions. Oh, I'll never ever do that. Okay, fine. You're not a candidate. Oh, really? Wait, what's the chance? Right. Then I can elaborate and give them more informed consent. I say it's like you're sitting in a dentist chair and the ceiling collapses. What's the chance of that?
Right.
It's rare. We're not talking about blindness. We're talking about what if my vision is worse? Can that happen? Yes, it can. But again, the cases are very, very rare, especially if you use the right equipment, your right experience. It's very, very unlikely. But it can happen. Here in the U.S., we have malpractice. Okay, we have the government looking at us. Right. I have my reputation. I want to keep it 3 generations. So we tell them it can happen, but believe me, we're going to do our darndest to make sure it doesn't happen, and it is rare.
I just feel like all surgeries have risks. So you got to know that there are risks, but it's just how many chance you probably get into that. And the most important is you choose the right practice, choosing the right surgeon with experience, then you'll be fine. And what happens if patients develop cataracts after like LASIK or EVO ICL surgeries?
Okay, so I've done so many people for so many years. The parents, when they did them when they're 40 years old, or whether they're 60, 65 years old, so many of them are coming back with cataract surgery. The risk of cataract surgery is not from the LASIK, developing cataract, it's from the fact that we're very nearsighted. So when we first started, we had problems calculating the lens to put in the eye. In other words, once we do surgery, we have to put artificial lens in. We have problems calculating the exact measurements. That we don't have many problems anymore. I've done a lot of this. The happiest patients, the happiest ones, not even so much the LASIK, the ones who wore thick Coke bottle glasses, you're in -12. That's nothing.
Okay.
It's nothing. I'm talking about people who just so blind. And then when you do the surgery, even if you can't put the special lens in, you put a regular lens in, they go, wow, first time in my life, I don't have to wear the thick, heavy glasses. It's just wonderful, just wonderful. The technology is just amazing. I would have never thought that we would have this kind of technology.
Right. I mean, that's definitely beyond their expectations. And yeah, so that's today's topic for LASIK and EVO ICL. What kind of options do you want to have for Asian patients? And 我们请导播老师把这个我们的信息板调出来。那实际上呢 ，Dr. Raymond Fong 他是纽约最负盛名的眼科医生之一，然后大家都可以扫码来添加，并且呢，他们现在有一个活动，就是 ICL 晶体是限时立减$1500，扫码还可以做免费的咨询，咨询里面会包含一系列的眼科检查，可能是你这辈子做过最全面的眼科检查。那同时呢，如果大家愿意关注他们的微信号的话，就是也可以扫码，也可以添加微信号是 NYEYES1 好，然后小红书号也是同样的号，大家可以扫码或添加微信号。那下一期呢，我们将会邀请 Dr. Fong 讲更多有关于老年的问题，比如说像近视眼、老花眼、白内障等等，因为他是这方面的顶级专家。Thank you so much, Dr. Fong. Yeah, it's a great episode. I'm going to talk you to next episode regarding the cataract surgery and refractive lens exchange. What kind of lens do you want to choose? Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Leah.
好，拜拜。
拜拜。